Hello, my name is Michael Bojanski, and I'm a North Carolina Eastern Region Odyssey of the Mind official and judge. This video is part of a series of videos on how to set up and run spontaneous problems effectively as a team. Now, coaches can use this resource, or team members can use this resource. It does a good job of both introing the problem, setting up the problem, how the team solves the problem, and then also how to run the debrief effectively. Now, this video is hosted on the Odyssey of the Mind wiki, which is a great resource not only for spontaneous problems, but for any other question you might have about outside assistance, long-term, and style. You can see a link to the wiki and also to the spontaneous section of the wiki in the description. Please enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, please comment or contact the administrator of the wiki directly. Thanks so much.
Can I flip over the sheet yet?
You may flip over the sheet. Okay, this is a hands-on problem called Perpetual Motion. In an actual tournament, you would have 1 minute to select the 5 team members who would compete. This is a two-part problem. In part 1, you will have 6 minutes to develop your solution and practice. In part 2, you'll be given 4 minutes to test your solution for score. You may ask the judge questions at any time, however, time will continue. Your problem is, in part 1, your team will use the materials on the table to design and build a machine that will keep the marble in motion above the table for as long as possible. When completed, the machine must rest entirely on the table surface. So you can't go below or use the floor or use the ceiling or whatever. In part 2, you will test your machine for score. You'll begin each test by saying start clock and releasing the marble. Once the marble has been released and an attempt is in progress, no team member may directly or indirectly touch the marble or the machine. You can't shake the table, you can't blow on the marble, you can't stomp the floor, anything like that. Touching the machine will automatically end the attempt. You may test your machine as many times as you like, and only the highest scoring attempt will count. You'll be scored as follows. Every second that the marble stays in motion above the table is 1 point. How well your team works together is 1 to 10 points, and the creativity of your solution is 1 to 10 points. I repeat, this is a two-part problem. In part 1, you'll have 6 minutes to develop your solution and practice. In part 2, you'll be given 4 minutes to test your solution for score. Your problem is, in part 1, you're going to use the materials on the table to design and build a machine that will keep the marble in motion above the table as long as possible. In part 2, you'll test your machine for score. You'll begin each test by saying start clock and releasing the marble. Once the marble has been released and an attempt is in progress, you can't touch it, directly or indirectly. Touching the machine will automatically end the attempt. You may test your machine as many times as you want. Only the highest scoring attempt will count. Each second the marble stays above the table is 1 point. How well your team works together, teamwork is 1 to 10. Creativity of your solution is 1 to 10. Your 6 minutes of thinking time begins now. Yes?
I would have to be, so we couldn't, move this and then move this again. We couldn't do that, could we?
Correct. Once you release the marble, you have to all stand back. You can't touch it anymore. No other external forces can be acting on the machine or the marble.
So,
yes.
Is there any rule in how you release the marble?
No.
So can you throw it?
Maybe we can
Yes.
take this to the bottom and do that so it would go.
But once it starts when it starts touching the machine.
I'm gonna read
So
through this and see if I can find anything.
Okay, what we can do.
So guys, you can throw the marbles as hard as you want or something.
You have to just let it drop.
No, he didn't say it. He said there's no rule in how you release the marble.
Oh, so you can just throw it.
I think if it spun around for a long
Maybe we
time.
could
Yeah, so
release
you
it
Oh,
and
you
get it
can't use
so,
all that tape.
put it on the
sorry.
spoon and
Dang.
You can't use this.
I was
So
excited.
this is gonna be trying not to say anything about it.
Okay, so if it spun around something for a long time, that would work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It'll
Does
just move a little
above,
bit.
does on tape count as above the table?
Yes.
Cause like,
But see, the thing is,
that's so creative.
this is still fine as long as the marble is moving,
Oh.
right? The marble just has to stay moving. If
So
it drops off the table, that's when the attempt
Okay,
finishes.
so when you say above the table, you mean on the table.
Yeah.
It counts. Okay.
So you can't, what I'm saying is that you can't have something that goes below
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Maybe what we could do is we could go this, and then have this.
It doesn't need to move a lot. You just
How
move
we
a
can have
very
this place
minimal
stuck
amount.
out.
If it's,
It can move like that much. It's technically.
if it's, okay, let's,
Do you
I don't know how
have,
late
do you
it
have
is
two
to-
marbles?
If it's like this, it's not moving. Like that's still not really moving, right? But like
If
this
it's
is
rolling,
rolling.
if it's rolling.
Yeah.
To make like a
Start
little
up
path
there.
for it to go.
Yeah, guys, so pencils can be used like this for a little path. Like
And this could be its starting.
Yeah, we can make a little
And
path
we could
that
like
just curves
incline it
much
like
as
with some string or other.
So guys,
something.
I
So
was
we can make a
thinking
giant path that curves as much as possible.
That way that's totally.
you can make it spin around for quite a long time.
What are we gonna use the cereal box for? I was thinking.
You
maybe-
can take apart the cereal box.
You can.
You can't. I'm assuming like there's no rules in how we use the
I was
material.
Hold on, we
thinking
should
that
start
maybe we
in the
could
corner.
take the
So
cereal
that it can
box to
turn
like the
and
edge
has
of
more
the
room to
table.
actually
So
turn.
it could.
Then
Wait,
what we do
is it
is
allowed to
we
go like
just
off
go
the table?
Can't go off the table. If it goes once it leaves the
But
table,
like,
the-
Yeah, and then we
that's
just
not
have-
how it is.
No, 'cause it has to be above the
Then it
table.
rolls.
so once it
Then we
leaves
have
like this
another
plane of the
pencil to
table,
redirect
the
it.
attempt is
Oh, I
done.
feel really stupid. Excuse me. I have an easy way to do this. I'm trying to get as little tape as possible.
I'm saying if it just spun for a long time, we'd get lots of points.
Oh, is this paper in our thing too?
Yes, the paper you can use.
Do we have
Wait,
another
so would it be illegal to like?
and spoons?
Would it be illegal to
Yeah, let it go. At the top.
put it in a cup and like start spinning around and
That's
release
pretty.
it, and now it
Starts out
counts
like that.
releasing
Then
marble?
we have that.
When
Then
you
tape it.
stop
Something
contact with the
Don't
cup,
tape it
that was
yet.
when I would start
Okay,
timing.
okay, that's what I was wondering.
No.
Because it's too heavy.
But you don't. It doesn't actually have to be
Maybe
marble.
we
you
can weigh
release.
it down.
Yeah, we'll just.
Say what?
It doesn't have to be actual marble that you release. Is what it's used. So if it was just in a cup and I started
No,
spinning
that's-
it,
Wait, no, but then
When
it's
you
like there's a
remove
little bit.
contact, yes, correct.
Okay, just wondering.
As soon as you remove contact with the marble or the machine, then that's when
Wait,
it
It's
starts.
still moving.
And
So
we're
then
gonna
we
have
have
there. But we could probably need this. Okay, but we need to take the pencils down first.
Well, so take that one down. That
Yeah,
one's
this
good.
one is the main
Take
one
that.
that needs to be taken.
Tape it.
Oh, excuse me.
No one's shelving the table. What's wrong with you?
Wait, where's the marble?
What there's two marbles. What marble is this one?
You can use either marble that you want.
Alright. Maybe it's two marbles. I need as little as possible. It's not even
Yeah,
marble.
look how much tape.
Can I have the marble?
I have it.
Oh, she had it. Sorry. Let's see. That's what she said. See, yeah, that's
And
fine.
then we want to direct.
Maybe we can move these pencils.
Yeah, yeah. All we have to do is that, and then please, we have an extra resource. We don't need this one.
That's so
Because
illegal.
it'll just keep going down. It's not going to go up.
Where's the marble?
You have
Oh,
a
wait,
minute
this
and
is
45 seconds left in part one.
Wait, 45 seconds.
A minute and 45.
Oh, I was about to say.
That was a lot.
Then it would enter here, so we want to put a pencil.
But we
Guys,
gotta
if it-
move some.
if it
Wait, do
somehow
we have to
moves-
use all the materials?
So
Yeah.
go again.
We have to use all
So
the
this is very
No,
consistent.
we
No,
don't.
you don't.
It goes in the same place each time.
Guys, I'm saying if it went into the plate and just like spun around.
You're right. Oh my gosh,
We
you're
can
so
do that
right.
at the end.
Yeah, like take the plate back and calculate it so it will just like that. Maybe it can go the course again. Wait, it was moved. You gotta if you always drop it from the same spot, it should always do the same
Guys, the
thing.
slower it goes, the better it is.
Yeah.
So maybe we'd want to stop it sooner. Like maybe bump it here,
Guys,
and bump it
We
again.
only have like less than a minute left, probably.
You have one remaining.
Yeah. So if we got it to go into the plate
Yeah.
somehow, to drop into the plate, it could just like spin. If the table's perfectly level, it'd be better.
Look, because then we can bend the plate, and then it'll just keep rocking back and forth.
We can't bend the plate during the thing though.
No, but we can bend it right
You can
now.
connect it with tape. Or something.
Like and then have it go. So are we
Oh,
gonna
wait,
use the
hold on,
cereal
hold on.
box? I don't think.
Then watch, put it in.
Just keep it. You might want to just. But you guys we have to be able to make it go there, so we have to like.
Or we could just stick it in the plate
Or we
and
just
just let
stick
it.
it in the plate and just bend it.
Hold on.
We need to have a way for it to get in.
This should just. Look, it just sits there spinning.
I know it won't go forever.
I know,
Actually,
really.
it will.
No, it'll just.
But not forever.
That's not a very creative.
Perpetual
use of
motion
materials.
actually doesn't
It's
actually.
not creative, but it's
Maybe we should bend it. Maybe we should just like make it
Still
go like
going.
that. Maybe we should bend every side.
But then, right, that would qualify as stopping. It went.
What would happen if we bent the other sides too?
It would unbend.
Okay, time.
We
Okay.
can't do any. Oh wait, I don't know.
You could still.
Is this time? Is this?
You can do as many. Okay, so
Should we
stop.
talk still?
Okay, stop.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have 4 minutes, and you can do as many attempts as you want,
But you can't move
and you
it
can
into-
still modify your materials if you want.
Okay, can we
Right?
just try? Maybe we should try. and
So
get
remember,
that
hold up.
one.
I didn't say go.
Guys, every time you have to say start
Every
clock.
time you have to say start clock. If you
Okay.
don't say start clock,
Are we?
I'm
is
not
where's
gonna time
is
you.
Just leave it there.
Okay.
You ready?
okay. So your 4 minutes of testing time begins now.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, start clock.
So it's gonna end right.
So that was 6 seconds.
We can't modify that.
No, the plate can't go.
Yeah,
It
we
can't
can-
go
we
You
can
underneath.
can still modify it if you want to.
Oh.
So that was, but you can't be touching it.
While it's going, or I can't touch it right now.
You can't touch the machine while the marble is
Oh,
rolling.
I can
We
touch it
can
right
still
now.
modify it. Okay.
So that attempt was 6 seconds.
I think we could just let it roll around on the plate and it would go for a pretty long time. But that wouldn't be super creative.
And I think I might also put one right there just for safety. But what if it falls off the plate like that?
Yeah, guys, it's not gonna go perfectly exactly right here every time.
Well, maybe we could like take one of this.
And if it
so
doesn't-
it would roll up there.
Guys, we don't need this. This isn't like necessary.
this because we can just move that.
We're gonna like put everything together.
You can't use the team copy in your materials. Like use this page.
Okay, guys, should we try it again?
Yeah, put
Start
it down
clock.
so we can see.
Okay, ready, set, start clock.
Might needs to go fast.
Okay.
So it's
That was 6 seconds again.
Okay.
smooth.
Exact same.
Basically. Make it.
I have a question.
Yep.
We wouldn't happen to be able to have the painting off.
Nope, it has to be above the table.
Okay.
If it leaves the plane of the table, then I'll end time.
Well, how about we
Try
have it
it.
turned this way? Because this
Okay,
way.
guys,
Try
should we just try having to sit around the plate
You
for
guys,
long
we
as
can
those?
like chuck it down.
here.
Yeah, you can.
Maybe
You
we
can
should-
chuck it as hard as you want.
I would
I'm
just start
saying
it
we
quick
can.
just because. I'm just. It doesn't really matter if you start the clock and just
Okay, yeah, it's not going in.
Yeah.
Maybe we should like use the paintbrush and carve it.
What's the time that we get?
How
Like
much
on
time do we
the-
have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes remaining.
So we can
Like,
try
put some of the
thing.
paper right
Guys, do you
here.
want to just try just letting it roll around the plate,
Okay.
see how long it goes?
Okay,
Okay, that's just like.
bend it how you need to bend it.
Okay, just. Okay, ready, set, start clock.
I was gonna say start turning it quickly. Like, can we?
No, we can't touch it while it's going.
No, I'm saying, but next time just like do it really hard so it'll go longer.
Okay, that was 8 seconds.
Oh, it's longer.
Okay, set, go.
It's a lot less creative of materials, though. I have to admit.
Yeah, so this isn't very fast at all. Yeah, so
Okay,
it's
stopped.
That was 7.
I honestly think it looks
Should we
like
bend it
that.
more?
Wait,
Should we bend it?
okay, wait, ready,
Can I
set,
try?
start clock. Wait, don't touch.
I'm sorry.
4
Dang.
seconds.
Here, do you want me
Can
to
I
bend
try
it
it?
more?
I was trying
Okay,
to
so bend it a
build.
little bit more, but we don't want there to be a little crease in the middle, or else it'll stay there.
Because it is. This is.
Okay, ready, set.
Oh,
Okay,
wait,
so-
wait. We're not gonna get. We're probably gonna get like 0.
1 minute.
Okay, guys, we're ready, set.
1 minute remaining.
Okay, ready, set, start clock.
I want to do it faster.
This should be the last time we do it with this strategy.
No, it didn't.
that doesn't count.
This is 14 seconds.
Oh, 14.
Should we do that?
So, guys, we're not being very creative with
You guys,
this.
let's do one more run. Can we just do one more run like this?
And that would help everything.
Everything.
Use yours.
No.
Why not?
Oh,
I took it, yeah, bent it, and then connected it to Charles.
14
and then made it.
And guys, and then we could put this here and it'll just bounce.
Oh wait, no, we could do that so it would.
15 seconds.
Guys,
Okay,
15.
test, test,
Ready,
test.
set, just go.
3. Start clock.
Okay, wait, that's not staying.
It's fine.
Oh. Okay.
5 seconds.
Ready, set, start
Start
clock.
clock. Go.
Time.
Oh.
Yeah,
it
stop
stopped
anyway.
anyway.
So 14 seconds was our best.
Okay, yeah, 14 seconds of time.
So you had 14 seconds, so that's 14 points. How well your team works together. I thought you guys had some great teamwork. I'd probably give that an 8 or a 9 at least. Creativity or solution. I actually thought that this was creative. I think the obvious thing is to do some sort of track once you figure out the table isn't perfectly level. I didn't like design the table to be unlevel, but I think that's, you try to make some sort of ramp and then you kind of guide it. But this wasn't that, so I like that. You could maybe combine it with, I don't know, like maybe like the cup rolls or like it falls over. You could probably have kind of built it up. You want to basically give it as much potential energy as you can, right?
Yeah.
But for I'd probably give your solution probably a 6 or a 7 for creativity of the solution. So I like that it was a little bit different than just doing the trap. I like that you tried different things. I thought that was good. So what did you all think you did well?
Teamwork.
Okay, what do you think you did well about teamwork? Be specific.
Well, we didn't argue with each other
That much.
We tried everyone's ideas.
Okay, so you tried everyone's ideas. That's really good. It's important that everyone's ideas get heard. It's not necessarily that everyone's ideas get tried, because sometimes you have so many ideas that you can't try everybody's ideas, but it's at least good to have everyone acknowledged and you'd like talk about it. Like, oh, this idea maybe is really good, let's test it out. Or maybe, hey, I don't think that could work because the materials don't really work that way or something. But I think that's good. Yeah. Anything else you did well besides teamwork?
Can I just try something? Like in
Yeah.
10 minutes?
What do you think you did well besides teamwork? Come on a little bit.
Wait, what are this?
So you get 1 point for each second, and then 1 to 10 for teamwork, 1 to 10 for creativity. So, anything else? Thought you did well?
There wasn't too many materials to make, especially like a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just
We
kind
had
of
a rubber
hard.
band that would have been really. We utilized
So we could like gotten 2 rubber bands, put it on.
You did use most of the
bounce down
materials.
for it.
Yeah.
Then
So
marble.
what do you all think you could have done better?
We could have probably had more going on with this, like it could have spun.
Yes,
and
like
it
a
got into
funnel or
this,
something.
and
The
then
rolling
dropped
cup
into
idea
here
was
and gone
actually
down.
really good. I like that.
I was
So besides of just like different things you could have tried, right? What do you think as far as your approach that you could have done better? Does that make sense?
We could have thought have made it a little bit more complex than just this plate. 'Cause it was a little
No,
bit.
not just about like specific to this, but how you approached it. How do you think you could have done something different in how you approached this problem, right? Because that can help you how you approach different problems in the future, right? So anything about how you approach the problem. Do you think you did a good job of kind of planning things out in the beginning?
Yeah.
pretty good.
How did you do that?
We could have. I mean, I kind of feel like we just automatically started working,
Yeah.
and I think we kind of lost our grip as the day went on. And so we needed to work a little bit harder to have thought first, and then started because we automatically started making a track, right?
Yes, I think that's a very good catch on how you approach. I think you immediately went into building stuff without planning and saying, okay, these are the types of things we have. Like what types of materials do you think, maybe listing out, okay, we could do a track, we could do the plate, we could do, something where it's rolling in the cup. You could list a couple different things out. How could you have used the 2 marbles?
Oh wait, maybe we could have like dropped one and then.
Like something would have hit the next one.
Yeah, like if it could trigger something that would release the next one, it would bump the other one and make it go. That would be too cool.
Yes, you could potentially use it as part of your track. I was also thinking you could use it to test 2 different things at once.
That's true.
Right? So maybe you're splitting up and you say, I'll test this idea, you can test that idea. How do you think you use kind of like the workspace itself?
We knew that it could go down that way,
Okay.
and it would automatically want to go down.
It was kind of cluttered. We kind of just left a bunch of stuff.
It's kind of cluttered. It wasn't organized. So that might have been something that you all could have thought of is that, okay, make sure we know, because sometimes like you'll lift something up and say, oh, we have a piece of string. I know exactly what we could do with this, but if it's not organized, you don't even know the piece of string is there.
Yeah, I didn't know the second marble was there.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when it was rolling, it kind of just like stopped in here. When if it was clear that you could see, okay, I know there's a spoon there. So I think keeping your space organized is really good. Anything else? Process. So what are you doing here, Sean?
Well, remember we built a teepee out of either pencils. What else do we have? We also have a
You could just stick it in the cup.
You want to take that, Michael?
that work? There you go. I don't know if you even need that. So let's say we have this guy, and it could just kind of rest here. And then
So we wound it up.
This is when you were giving it royalties, you said?
no, this is not when
We were just doing it for fun.
So
after
you can do
that.
swinging motion this way, but if you wind up the string, that's
Yeah.
that's
And then-
still just as much, yeah. And then it,
So we wound it all the way up to here.
But
And
additional
then-
on the
and then-
How
stopped
long
And
did you
then
get?
we
and then you can also
I
see
think
it's
it
still
was
moving,
like
right? It's still
a minute and
moving.
a half or something.
So it's just a little bit of, and then you could
And
do
so-
here with winding.
Wind it or
that'd be
start
a lot.
centrifugal motion with it, and so it starts spinning like this, and so it keeps going.
Now you've seen the team solution for the problem perpetual motion. Let's talk about some things that you can learn from their solution. So the first thing is to understand the importance of planning. The team kind of rushed into developing their solution, and they didn't really have a direction that they really wanted to go to. You always want to spend maybe the first 1 or 2 minutes, depending on how much time allows, understanding what materials you have, understanding the goal of the problem, and then figuring out all the different ideas and listening to all the different team members, and then picking what solution you want. If you immediately go into building stuff, then it's very, very difficult to kind of switch in the middle of the problem. This also brings up the point of the balance between kind of delegating and splitting off into groups and then needing to have a cohesive strategy. The way that you overcome this imbalance or this problem is to have a spontaneous captain. Now you could have one spontaneous captain for all 3 types of spontaneous problems, or you could have one spontaneous captain for each type. In any sense, this spontaneous captain has several jobs or duties. He or she would make sure that everyone's ideas are being listened to. He or she would be able to, once an idea is decided upon, to delegate. They'd also be able to make sure that everyone is understanding what's going on. So maybe while one team member is building part of the solution, another team member is tying strings together. The team captain would be able to understand, oh, maybe we need more people helping tying the strings because that's not going to get done in time. So the team captain has a really critical role in almost all types of spontaneous problems, but especially hands-on in managing the work and managing ideas and making sure the team is a cohesive unit. Now, the team captain can also play a good role in these unique types of problems by asking the right question during planning time. In this problem, the question to ask would have been, what types of motion are there that will keep the time running to keep getting a bigger score? In this example, the team really only thought of motion as in the marble rolling on top of the table. But as we see in the other solution with the pendulum, there were actually 2 types of motion they didn't really think of. You had a swinging motion back and forth using the string, and then you also had a twisting motion going back and forth when you turned the string around. So if you ask the right questions, you can sometimes solve the problem because you're approaching it from a different angle rather than just what's obvious. And the team captain is a great person to be in charge of asking these different types of questions. For more tips on spontaneous and more spontaneous resources, go to the Odyssey of the Mind wiki, which is in the description. You can also find more videos on hands-on problems and other types of spontaneous problems.